You know what I love about old JSNIP4? That guy gives you some good information, doesn't he? And I see a little headline here, and it says, man, this something about this sounds familiar, like I've done a video on this a while back. Huh, I had to go search YouTube for myself to find the video. And I just typed, actually in Google, I typed JSNIP4 Mexico gold. And I saw my video. And it is titled, from October 13th, 2011, is Mexico's 92 tons of gold gone? Never received in the first place? Question mark. And I just listened to the first minute and a half to figure out, was this that video? And it is that video. And last year, 2011, the Mexican government apparently bought, or they had 92 or 93 tons of gold. And what I'm talking about in that video from October 13th, 2011, is a citizen, I believe, of Mexico said, knock knock, excuse me, Central Bank of Mexico? Yeah, Mexico has one of those too. And it's ran by the same people who run ours too, in case you're wondering. This person asked, where is the 92 tons of gold? I mean, is it here in our soil? Do we have it in your central bank? We can't give you that information. We don't want to talk about it. And we're not going to. And it's funny because around the same time, India had a guy that also challenged their central bank for the same reason. And I always wonder, whatever happened with these things? You know? Did the banks just tell them to go piss off and sorry, we're not going to tell you where it's at? And keep in mind, if your own country's central bank is telling you, we don't want to tell you if the gold is in our country or not. Because the guy, I don't know if it was the guy in Mexico or the guy in India, said, I think maybe the guy in India, said, can you at least tell me if it's in our country? No, I'm not going to talk to you about it. In other words, no, it's not. It's over at the club's house. The boys, you know, our pals, central banker friends. And I said it then. That's why they're saying that. That's why else would your own country, central bank, not want to tell you that you paid for however many billions of dollars for all this gold? We're going to go ahead and store it in London or the Federal Reserve in America. Who would do that in India? Who would do that in Mexico? And I mentioned then, old Hugo Chavez, he got it right. Bring me my gold back. Yeah, bring that stuff back. And it was around the same exact time that MF Global went belly up, and nobody who was demanding delivery for gold and silver could get their silver or gold delivered because they went belly up. And of course the rumor, it's just a rumor at this point, but it's more factual in my opinion than a rumor, is that they didn't have any gold to be given out to these peasants demanding delivery on the COMEX and the LBMA because Hugo Chavez needs his, whatever his total was, around 100 tons of gold or something like that also. He needed his back and was demanding it back. And they couldn't deliver it to him for like 2 or 3 months. Now, last time I checked, it's pretty simple to go into a warehouse, whether it's underground, secure facility, whatever. Hey, we've got so-and-so tons. All right, give me X amount of these 400-ounce bars. As a matter of fact, they're nicely and neatly stored right over here in the corner with Hugo Chavez's name on it. It's how it should be. Let's go ahead and load them up and go send them to him. Will that take 2 or 3 months to accomplish? I mean, really? Yeah, it's gold. So what? So what? All these mining companies, all these big bullion dealers who are transferring lots of gold and silver. It doesn't take months to do that, especially once they've already paid. And Hugo Chavez and friends already paid. They're just storing it for security purposes. So I mentioned in these videos, India, they're asking where their gold's at, the people are, and their central bank saying we don't want to tell you. And then right around the same time, Mexico, same thing, we don't want to tell you either. And that's the last I heard of it. So I knew a couple lawsuits had been filed. Got a little update for you today. Bank of Mexico, central bank, admits 96% of its entire gold reserves are held in the U.S. and London. Boy, it took practically a year. Literally a year. What was that video again of mine? October 13th, 2011. Today's the 16th. Imagine that. A year later, It finally comes out. They had to tell where the gold was. This is thanks to Silver Doctors here repeating this story. After months of dragging their feet, no, more like a year, and claiming it was necessary for national security reasons to keep that info classified. We can't tell you where our gold's at, even if it's in our country or not. We don't even want to tell you that. That's pretty classified information there. The Bank of Mexico has been forced to comply with the federal transparency law that they have in Mexico and release information revealing where the central bank's gold reserves are held. In what may not be a surprise to any Silver Doctor reader or any JSNIP4 subscriber, the report reveals that the Bank of Mexico holds less than 5% of its entire gold reserves within its own borders of Mexico, while the remaining 95% of its physical gold reserves are held in the U.S. and London, just like I said it would be way back when. Imagine that. My preposterous thoughts. Absurd bozo clown in his laundry room. You've never worked at a bank in your life, much less a central bank. For God's sake, shut your filthy mouth, JSNIP4. You're a bozo. Nah, JSNIP4 is right again, actually. Sorry about that. Hate to burst your bubble there. From the non-college educated clown who does these videos in his laundry room with the duct tape green screen. Oh, this guy can't possibly know anything. This guy's got to be a clown. Yeah. But you may want to keep stacking that physical silver and gold, especially silver, because you don't want to be the Mexico or the India who gets told one day, can you take a rain check on getting your gold back? We've been putting out all these fires across the world on the COMEX and LBMA to pretend that we have the gold. We used all your gold. Can you take a rain check? Or better yet, don't tell them. We're going to put tungsten-filled gold bars. Just the outer layer, tiny little bit of outer layer will be gold. Maybe they won't count and catch on. Maybe India and Mexico and all these other countries that are storing their gold in the U.S. and in London, who are idiots for doing so, maybe they won't ever drill into their gold bars. Who does that? That's absurd. That's the thinking at the time. Until we fast forward in, I think, the near future. And you're going to find that people are definitely getting screwed and definitely getting back tungsten-filled gold bars. We already seen it a few times now, and the latest one was out of that place in New York that had a total of 10-ounce bars, I think they said they got in. All of them were tungsten-filled. They had $15,000, I think it was like $15,000 worth of gold out of 99 or 100 something, a little over $100,000 worth of what they thought was, gold that they thought they had. Another reason why you have to have it in your possession. You think because you're a country and you're storing it in another country's possession that changes the rules of if it's not yours, you don't own it? I mean, really? It's like the damn dogs at the screen back door trying to get in. I don't see nothing out there. Something else. So, he says, translation, nearly the entire amount of Mexico's gold reserves are held at the Bank of England and the New York Fed basement and have likely been rehypothecated more times than an MF Global client's assets. I would strongly agree to that. It's been sold, resold, relent, lent, and relent, on top of it being sold a million times over. All on paper, of course. Except somebody's got it. Somebody really does have the real thing. And it's the club. And if they melted it down, they melt 90% down, keep 10%, fill that 10% inside of it, or have a tungsten bar, and then put that little 10% over it, and then give it back to people, hoping they're not going to look. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens. Are we actually going to stiff? We, as in, yes, America. I said it. Yeah. Because our Fed has their gold. That's America. And London also, our great ally. Are we actually going to screw all of these other countries out there with fake tungsten-filled gold bars? I I tend to believe yes, but I also said a while back that I think the first person who's going to get screwed are the people that have all their gold in some kind of financial institution that claims it's safe, it's secure. We're going to give you a warehouse receipt. It's in a special lockbox that no one else can own but you. In other words, a segregated account or an allocated account. And they're going to get screwed when they get their gold bars back and they're filled with tungsten. We would do that before we did that to a country, you would think. But considering the bars we give to countries and we trade and hold and that kind of thing, that they're 400-ounce bars. That's a lot of gold. That's a big gold bar. So that's where the majority of it would go. These people that have bars at a financial institution, they're not storing 400-ounce bars. They're probably storing 10-ounce, 1 ounce, bunch of 1 ounce, that kind of stuff. So remains to be seen what happens with this. So it said from Guillermo Barba, last year the story went around the world that the Bank of Mexico refused to reveal in what country its reserves of gold were stored. Mexico was on the world stage as regards gold after it purchased 93 tons and rose in the global ranking of gold reserves calculated by the World Gold Council. Today, thanks to the federal transparency law, that bank has become perhaps the first central bank to reveal in writing the amounts of its gold holdings as well as the names of its custodians and the locations where its gold holdings are supposedly held. It was quite difficult to obtain this information, for the bank refused again and again to hand over that information until compelled to do so by a ruling of its own Department of Management for Rules Control, which is the entity in charge of dealing with appeals presented as appeals for revision. The wrangling went on for 4 months, during which the central bank insisted that it was necessary to classify as reserved all information regarding to its gold position. It claimed that revelations might harm the financial, economic, or monetary stability of the country. Now that's Mexico. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever read or heard of anything in which something had to get hushed up in America, and it read kind of the same way, where it says this? Matter of fact, I think old Ben Bernanke had said that a couple times. We don't need people looking, no audit of the Fed. If we reveal where the money went, as they said, remember that little hearing they had a year or two ago? A little hearing? If we reveal where the money went, it could harm the financial, economic, or monetary stability of the country. Seems like the Federal Reserve, our own Federal Reserve, said that. Almost word for word. And this is Banxico, the Central Bank of Mexico, saying the same thing for the same reasons? No. And you think central banks in all these different countries are just totally different? They're ran by different people, different ethnicity, etc. There's no way that the elite have their tentacles in every single country that has a central bank. No. That's conspiracy stuff there. Now, however, survey says they're only holding 5% of their own reserves. Would you lend out your most powerful asset that's been an asset for at least minimal of 6,000 years of history? 6,000! Jesus wasn't even a figment in the imagination of God when gold was money 6,000 years ago, right? And it was money then, and it's money now. You wouldn't think of all the things you could let someone hold for you. Hey, we'll just keep it over at your house. It's kind of like it's mine, but you can watch it for me. It probably wouldn't be something as significant as gold. The one thing that can never go to zero, has always gotten people and countries through hard economic times, currency collapses, all kinds of stuff. You, as a central bank of a country, should know that. Wouldn't dare send it over to the United States and London. And again, out of the entire world, is the only place that you can safely store your gold in the U.S. and in London? I mean, those are the only two places on the face of the earth that are safe? No. Those are the two, strange enough, the two financial centers of the entire world. the elites, right? The bankers, etc. So you're storing your gold over there in their system. Who would do that? Someone who was appointed to a central bank position in any of these countries. Who's going to be told, what you guys do, now that I gave you this great paying job in charge of your country's bank, you're going to put that gold, we're going to just store it for you. And you're going to pay us this little tiny fee to keep it secure. Right. No, as I said, they're going to take that gold and put out these fires on Wall Street, the COMEX, etc. until they can't do it anymore. And when they can't do it anymore, man, I can't wait to see what happens. Can't wait to see what excuse we tell Mexico or India. Then again, maybe we'll just send them those damn fake bars. Tungsten. Oh, stupid Mexicans, stupid Indians, they don't know anything. Ah, we're America. Arr. Beacon of democracy. We spread democracy. Arr. We spread disease. Okay? That's what we spread, unfortunately. Maybe one day in the near future that'll change, but right now, no, it's not. Take care.